Hey everybody, Pete here. Today we're going to talk about a question that I've been hearing a lot about AI. Is it making us lazy? Let's get real. Let's dive into it and talk about AI's impact on our cognitive abilities and productivity. In this short video, we're just going to cut through the hype, examine whether AI tools are actually dulling our minds or if they're enhancing our capabilities, and how to stay in control. So here's the big question. Some people are just saying that AI is going to turn our brains to mush. We're going to end up like fat floating people saw in Wally in the movie Wally. So are they right, or are they just in the point? To let's really dive into what the relationship is between AI tools and human cognition concern. One, cognitive atrophy, right? The worry is that if we let AI handle everything, that we're going to stop thinking for ourselves. And there are actually some studies and evidence that are showing that some people, some kids and things like actually performing worse on exams and things like I don't have the exact sources for that. I've just read some articles and heard that, oh yeah, there is a decline in the testing of some students, but by old standards, by old school standards, right? It's kind of trying to test for people their ability to do their job prior to the internet, right? Once the internet was unleashed, we had this massive tool that allowed us to research information and solve things so much more quickly. The nature of work completely changed. And so the nature of the test needed to also change. The idea is like crutch. If you lean on a crutch too much, or if you sit in a wheelchair for too long, forget how to walk. Now, this happened before when we had calculators, GPS, spell check. Each of them sparked similar concerns. People would forget how to drive or would be able to forget how to navigate. I'm old enough to remember when we used to print out instructions from MapQuest, have to take those and get lost anyway. It's use good old fashioned maps to drive cross country, right? I don't think this is really a problem. The problem is as big as I want to make it out to, right? Because AI is really just a tool at the end of the day, right? Power drill. You can still build a house with a hand drill, but it's going to take you 3 or 4 times as long. Because you start using power tools to do something doesn't mean that you forget how to actually build a house. Sure speeds up the process. So we have to think of AI like that. It is just a tool that replace slower ways of doing things, and it actually enhances the way we actually execute that. Does that make sense? And so the power drill, for example, replaced the manual drill, and it didn't prevent us from actually building things or take away our jobs for building or creating or drilling, but it did enhance the speed of that. So that's how we should think about AI, right? It doesn't replace thinking. It does enhance thinking. In fact, I am much smarter and more intelligent as a result of using AI because I have an always on demand artificial intelligence that is connected to millions, if not billions of information sources that I can converse with and collaborate with. And I can have it poke holes in my processes. I can have it stress test things. I can have it act as a strategic partner. I can have it teach me things in ways that I understand, right? So it allows me actually to think better, in my opinion. The other thing is yeah, there are aspects where AI will make us cognitively lazy. Those are things, or the calculator and other things that are, we don't need to be able to have to do all this mental arithmetic anymore, right? We always have something that we can crunch the numbers on. It cracks me up because like growing up, right? Teachers would always be like, I'm not going to have a calculator with you always. You're going to have to learn how to do this. And here we are decades later with the information of the world in our palm. Oh my goodness. So it's just a tool. And we need to think about it that way, right? And the difference between cognitive enhancements and cognitive laziness isn't the tool, it's anything, it's how we use it. So those productive AI users are actually going to maintain agency and critical thinking throughout the process. Humans are by default lazy, and we want to do the laziest thing. We're just wired that way, right? Like if you look into how the brain manages its energy consumption, right? It is extremely lazy. It does everything it can to prevent itself from burning large amounts of calories. This is a principle that in marketing we learn and try to apply. That's why we write things at like 5th grade level. why we communicate things clearly and simply during a sales process, because the harder somebody has to think, the less likely they are to buy. And so we don't want them to think hard. We want them to literally have things be a no-brainer. How does how do we stay sharp? What's the no fluff strategy? Not becoming lazy cognitively while using AI. First things first, you got a brain, so use it. So break down the problem first, understand what it is you're trying to solve, and ensure that get clear on the process or problem first, right? It's just when you're trying to delegate, like try to think of AI as like an employee. When I try to delegate something to an employee, if I just the task onto them without any sort of explanation, clear outcome, or definition of what the problem is, I'm setting them up for failure, right? It's going to be the same thing with AI. So it's getting better at understanding your intention and taking guesses at what you're trying to solve, but it doesn't always get it right. So in order to get the most effective output from your AI utilization, you want to break the problem down first. So example I have here is like you're writing, outlining your ideas before using AI to help draft specific sections. With this video, right? For example, I created the outline while walking my dogs. And I was just talking back and forth with AI saying, here's some of the things I want to do. This is the structure. This is the topic I want to talk about. And here's the takeaways I want to have. Poke holes in it. Tell me what do you think is good, bad? And I presented the problem first and went from there. Again, while hallucinations are not as common as they were before, they still do occur, right? AI still invents things and fills in the gaps, even especially when it doesn't know the answers. And so you need to check the AI's output for errors. Gut check everything, right? Don't take everything that comes out of AI as verbatim, as fact. You still have to double check its output. And sometimes, like I'll get outputs from AI, and I'll be like, this doesn't seem right, or this seems a little off. Or because AI runs off of resources as well, it sometimes just our brain will be lazy and give us a C grade answer instead of the A grade answer we want. And so sometimes you have to push it and be like, oh, don't be lazy. Don't save resources. Don't optimize token usage. Give me the exact answer I want. And sometimes when you push like that, then you finally get the quality of results you actually want. 3, use it for grunt work, not for judgment, right? Again, AI is essentially pattern recognition on steroids when you really break it down. Really good at predictively trying to, based off patterns and processing, figure out what's the next thing you need or you want, right? And the most simplest example of that is predictive text, right? When you're texting and the next word pops up automatically, that in short is AI in its most fundamental form, most basic form, right? So have it do all the grunt work, have it do all the repetitive stuff, right? Have it create things that you don't want to create. So have it create emails, have it do the drafting, have it create blog posts, have it create, do the first draft and rounds on a lot of things, right? Especially in the creative process, that's one of the hardest things we have right now is being able to stare at a blank sheet and come up with something. It's so much easier to edit something, and I'm better and faster if I have AI generate a bunch of ideas for me from the get-go, and I start editing kind of the greasy chute that gets me into the creative process, right? Instead of staring at a blank screen in a white document and just being like, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to do, right? Think of it, use it for that. It gets the grunt work of the creative process started. Let it take meeting notes. I try never to take a meeting note or a meeting without having a AI note taker in there, because I don't want to take notes and I don't want to have to disconnect from the meeting in order to write down something or forget something. Like I found, because of AI note takers, I'm able to be way more present in meetings, to be able to actually not have to worry about missing something because it's recorded and I can go back to it. And having transcripts for everything helps keep everybody honest as well. Honor the days most of the time of the he said, she said arguments, because I can always go, especially with clients, I can always go back to a transcript and be like, this is what we went over in our call. This is what you agreed to. This is what I agreed to. And there it is, black and white, right? So it helps eliminate a lot of hard feelings and stuff like that. But yeah, when it comes to judgment calls, like there's certain things that I don't want to rely on AI for. I want its input to help me out. But at the end of the day, AI was created by humans. and humans have biases and value sets and things like. And the individuals in some of these companies that are creating these, while they're working hard to get biases out of the AI, it will have political or religious leanings that don't align with mine. And so some of the core values that AI might be using to make judgments are remnants of the developers behind the scenes, right? They might be crazy lunatics when it comes to from a political standpoint or religious standpoint. And those little ideations might actually seep into AI's logic centers to be able to, and I don't want that to infect the judgment. I don't want to be told that something that I believe to be true and just and correct and upright is a fringe ideology because somebody decided that was the case and it's worked its way into AI. So I know it's kind of weird. It's not the best way to communicate that example, but the long and short of it is you should have your own core values. You should have your own code that you rely on for making judgments. And that's what you should rely on and let AI do the hard work of maybe the research or posing views or things like you think more critically or see the other side of things. Remember, you're the boss. So you always think AI doesn't make you lazy. Passive usage does, right? Agency but understand the problems that you're trying to solve with AI before you seek a solution, right? There's a quote somewhere that I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll have to find out who said it earlier, but essentially to paraphrase it, it was a problem well defined is half solved. And so you want to be able to clearly define your problem before you go to AI seeking solutions. You yourself should develop verification habits. So make sure you check all the outputs and reserve judgment and decision making for human domains. It's one of the things I did a presentation a little while ago on the 4 things only humans are good at. And maybe I'll add that in here. One of the things is being empathetic, having human intelligence and emotional intelligence. Things like these are all things that AI isn't really good at. So reserve that for you. And at the end of the day, remember, it's your brain. So you set the direction and you keep it that way. I'm sure there'll be some people who will delegate 100% of their decision making to AI, and it seems like a wonderful thing to do, but does really seem true through life passively letting statistical computations make all your decisions really seem a fulfilling life? No. That's my take. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments.